After 13 years in legal, financial, and emotional restraints, a monumental victory for Britney Spears. And with a powerful new attorney of her own choosing at her side, there just might be some very big victories to come. Also, it is Python season in Florida. Scratch that. It is always Python season in Florida. But now this week, it is Python Roundup season. Why hundreds of people are risking their skin to take back the glades. Tonight on Banfield. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a jam-packed edition of Banfield. It is a brand new day for Britney Spears. Simple as that. The pop legend who lost virtually all control of her own life back in 2008 does not yet have the freedom that she's been fighting for. But tonight, she has one hell of a new weapon in that fight. And his name is Matthew Rosengart, a big-time former federal prosecutor turned Hollywood big shot lawyer who's won cases for the big ones, names like Sean Penn, Steven Spielberg, just to name a few. At an explosive hearing today in Los Angeles, around which the Free Britney movement was once again very well represented, a judge approved Britney Spears' choice of an attorney, her very own. And those two little words, Spears' choice, really, that makes all the difference in the world in this story. Job one for Britney's hand-picked advocate. Get rid of Britney's dad, Jamie, as her conservator. Speaking for herself today, again via telephone, in court, and through tears, Britney Spears accused her father of, quote, conservatorship abuse, and said she wants to press charges and have her dad investigated. I should note that this hearing, like the one last month, set these wheels in motion, of course. This was off limits to cameras, but reporters were there. There is just so much to delve into here, not just for Britney, but for so many, 1.3 million approximately, people in conservatorships across this country. Joining me with their brilliant insights are investigative journalist Diane Diamond. She is writing a book on conservatorship abuse, so what a voice. Also from Court TV, I'm joined by anchor and attorney Julie Grant, also a law professor. What a voice. And finally, namesake and star of The Verdict with Judge Hatchett, Glenda Hatchett herself. So a judge. What a voice. Ladies, thank you all for joining me. Judge Hatchett, I'm going to start with you because I wasn't so sure that the judge in this case was going to allow this. And then again, this attorney is a big shot. He's got the bona fides. He has huge clients. It's not like he's from some back room. Were you surprised?
I was actually surprised because it seemed that the judge really was not giving her a lot of leeway. But I think the fact that she has an advocate who really is one that she wants to make her voice known in this situation, I think it's very important. And I was very pleased to see it happen today, frankly.
So, Julie Grant, with your law background, I think this is a perfect question for you. That man on the screen right there, Matthew Rosengart, get used to the name. He's going to be in the press a lot. He walked outside. He faced out all those reporters and all the Free Britney people, and he said, job number one is, I'm going after Jamie Spears. My client, Britney Spears, wants him off the case, wants him off the conservatorship. It's not that easy, Julie Grant, but does he have a clear shot at making this happen?
I think he absolutely does. Ashley, good evening. Thank you for having me. And I think the word Judge Hatchett used is spot on. He's an advocate. And there really is a difference between a lawyer and an advocate. And I love to use that word advocate because when we think of someone who is doing advocacy, they are making it their admission to further the interests of another person. So here, it is going to be Matthew Rosengart's mission to be fast and be furious to get Jamie Spears off of this conservatorship. And I think he's going to come out of the gate racing on this one. I think we can expect lots of motions to be filed immediately. He's going to be doing his homework, probably already has, Ashley. And I think this is a goal that is within reach that can be accomplished with him.
So, Diane Diamond, with all of your background and the years that you have been researching conservatorships, We all have to take a deep breath and realize we have not seen Britney's case. We have not seen her redacted medical files, and they are myriad. Where should we be taking a deep breath, especially all the Free Britney people?
Well, I think everyone needs to take a deep breath and realize this is not going to happen overnight. You know, there were 3 weeks between these two Britney hearings, and there'll be more. But I'll tell you what I think this new attorney is going to do. He's already drawn up a petition to dissolve the conservatorship. That's step number one. Let's get rid of the whole damn thing. Now, if he can't do that, as he said, he's going to go after Jamie Spears on a different track. Separately. And, you know, this guy's a litigator. He's not part of this elder law cabal that is involved in guardianships and conservatorships across the country. He's a litigator. He's a pit bull. And I wouldn't be surprised if he filed some sort of civil suit with very specific charges against Jamie Spears. And let me just add one more thing. Britney is now worth $60 million. That's nothing. When you compare it to Rihanna or J-Lo, she should have much more money. After 4 years residency in Vegas, a worldwide tour, 4 albums, where did all that money go? That's what this new attorney is going to be looking at.
Well, I also look at Rihanna and others and Celine Dion, and those people have their full capacities and have had their full capacities for 20 plus years. So, I mean, there may be a big difference there. Yes, she's made a lot of money. Glenda Hatchett, I heard today the salaries that we're talking about that her father, Jamie, and the conservator, who's the other half, the conservator of person. So there's Jamie, conservator of money, and there's Jody Montgomery, conservator of person. They each draw a salary of about $200,000 a year. And as the salaries go for conservators, especially one that would require as much work as this young woman's has, that is actually not abnormal. So to that, yes. Jamie Spears said this. He said, either the allegations will be shown to be true, in which case corrective action must be taken, or they will be shown to be false, in which case the conservatorship can continue its course. As a judge, I'm sure that there is so much more that the sitting judge in this case, this jurist is looking at so many medical documents that the public's not privy to. It's not just about a $200 salary that Jamie's been drawing.
Exactly. And I think that at the end of the day, what we're going to see is not necessarily that the conservatorship will dissolve completely, but I think that, as I've said to you before, I think that the whole tension of having her father in that position is just not a healthy one. I am glad that she has her own lawyers, I'll say again, but at the end of the day, I agree that it will not happen quickly. The judge has far more information than we will ever have privy to. And obviously there was a decision that should be kept in place. But the question is, who are the people who are managing those 2 spots? And I think that, that he needs to be removed. And I think that there needs to be a more constructive approach if she remains under this conservatorship.
So, Julie Grant, you heard those words that Britney said in court today. I actually just about lost my lunch when I saw just how, excoriating she was of her dad, saying she wants to press charges. Now, just for the folks out there, legalese means people don't press charges, police do, but you can be supportive of the pressing of charges, meaning I'm a willing witness. But she wants to go forward. She wants the police to press charges against Jamie for abuse of conservatorship, and she wants them investigated. You're the law professor here. Does she just get her wish, or what has to happen for that?
Ashley, I think it's a maybe. A big investigation would have to happen first, as you know, and I'm so glad you clarified that it's not up to an individual person to, quote unquote, press charges. So there would have to be a police investigation to see if, in fact, a crime has occurred. So in order to answer the question, we definitely need more facts tonight. But one thing I think that's really ironic, Ashley, is that we may get some more facts if there is that evidentiary hearing that Jamie Spears wants. Remember when Britney spoke at the first hearing and laid out all of those allegations of abuse, Jamie Spears and his attorney fired back saying, well, we want an evidentiary hearing and we want to see how she's trying to substantiate all of these wild allegations, where it's coming from, almost kind of like discovery, maybe in a civil case. So we would have to know, if a crime has occurred, could there be a financial crime? As you pointed out, Ashley, Jamie is the conservator of her estate, so they would look at the finances, as Diane pointed out as well, the money picture, what's going on there, did a crime occur, and was there any type of domestic abuse that occurred? Was there a battery? Was there a threat? Anything physical? What exactly is she saying would be the basis for a criminal charge? So I think the answer tonight is maybe, and I think everybody's going to be keeping a close eye on it, Ashley, to see if more allegations come out to substantiate what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean, just because someone says something in court, or just because somebody writes something and signs an affidavit, does not make it fact. And everybody needs to realize legal documents don't mean, oh, that's the end of it. Those things are litigated. They are challenged. And it's usually evidence that comes and supports that. Diane Diamond, to that end, I want to bring up a name that Britney followers will know, but the average guy among us might not, and it's the name Sam Ashgari. He is the much younger boyfriend of Britney Spears. He's been spending an awful lot of time with her, traveling with her to Hawaii. She mentions him a lot on her Instagram, and whenever I hear boyfriend, someone's close, young woman of almost 40 with 2 children, 14 and 15, wants a new baby, my hackles sort of go up, and I think, is that guy possibly looking to insert himself into the Britney Spears fortune as someone who may one day have a baby and therefore be due lots of money? I mean, that's where most spidey senses go.
That's awfully cynical, Ashley. Yes,
well, that's me.
Of course. Is he the one pulling the strings? Is he pulling the strings and he's saying, go after your dad. That's what you need to do. The world's watching now. The media's, you're in the spotlight. Or, there's something in my mind. I was in Los Angeles when Britney was having her breakdown, when she was beating cars with umbrellas and driving with her little boy in her lap, her infant son, and shaving her head. And she was in a fog. I'm not a doctor, but it looked to me like she was having a mental breakdown. I now see this young woman coming forward, not always completely perfectly spoken, but with such passion. And I wonder if maybe she's off medication now and she's thinking more clearly and she's realizing, I'm in this position because my father put me here and I am mad. So maybe it's the boyfriend getting her all juiced up and ready to go, or maybe it's just Britney is almost 40 years old and now she's seeing the forest for the trees.
Okay, when we come back, ladies, I have so much more ground that I want to cover on this, because it isn't just in L.A. Protesters were all over the courthouse. They were all over New York City. They were all over Washington, D.C. The politicians are now getting a hold of this. And yes, they're tweeting about new legislation, and they're calling it the Circus Act. You want to know what's in the Circus Act? Come on back. I'm not only going to show you that, I'm also going to show you some of Britney's private messages that just got attached to a brief. That's next. We are breaking down today's major legal win for Britney Spears, and I'm again joined by journalist Diane Diamond, Court TV anchor and attorney and professor of law, Julie Grant, and the judge herself, Judge Glenda Hatchett. To the three of you, I couldn't have better guests, by the way. All three of you have so much background in this particular topic, plus it's the Ladies' Fest. So, no young person's mental health woes should go unheard by, of course, Washington. And, of course, now we have tweets coming in from politicians who are deciding that it's time that they get in on the act. And I want to just read from Representative Jason Smith. Today, he tweeted out this: by sharing her story, Britney Spears has exposed an injustice that should not have happened. No woman should be forced to have an IUD without her consent. Today, I introduced the Circus Act to put a stop to this terrible practice. And forgive me for being cynical. He's a Republican and, definitely anti-abortion. And listen, and whenever a politician does anything, I always question it. I'm wondering if it's like, what a great cause to hang my cause on about Britney Spears with the Circus Act. Nonetheless, I do want to ask you, Diane, because I know that you've done decades of research on what politicians have done when it comes to conservatorships. What have they done?
Yeah, this is a chapter in the book. In 1987, Senator Claude Pepper of Florida held hearings. Everybody was aghast at what they heard. The guardians and taking advantage of elders and wards of the court. In 2018, Senator Collins of Maine had big, full-blown hearings that were on live television. Everybody was aghast at the heart-wrenching stories they heard. Guess what's happened? In the 35 years that this has been going on Capitol Hill, they've all known all about it. And please, please, everybody understand, it's not just Britney Spears. I've got hundreds of cases I could tell you about of exploitive guardianships. Congress has done nothing. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of talk, no action. So, here they are on the Britney Spears thing. Here we go again.
Hey, and I always come back with there are lots of people who take advantage of their, conservatees. We don't know that's the case in Britney's case because we don't have her medical files. And we don't know if she is exhaustively troubled and that Jamie Spears has been desperately trying to save his daughter from herself because we know plenty of people like her, famous too young, overexposed, devoured by, the public, and it's just all too much. And who knows how she's handling her life because we're not there. I do want to bring that to Julie because Julie Grant, there's this thing called supported decision making. I don't think a lot of people had heard of it before, but supported decision making is sort of a step down from full-on control, puppeteering, and conservatorship. But what is it, and how easy is it to get that?
That's a great question, Ashley. I'm not exactly sure because I don't have a license to practice in California, so I'm not sure about the particulars with their law. But I would imagine that Matthew Rosengart is going to examine this because we've heard two sort of different things coming from Britney. When we had that first hearing in open court, her mission was to have her father removed. And remember, Bessemer Trust was the co-conservator, and today the judge allowed them to resign. So Bessemer Trust is out of there, and it's just Jamie Spears now managing the finances, and of course, Jody Montgomery managing Britney's person. But then today, when she had the opportunity to speak, and she was much more emotional today, crying today, she said she wants it over. So I think that's a big question she has to hash out with her attorney as to whether or not they want to keep this with someone else managing the finances or abolish it altogether and do something like what you mentioned under the law. And I think that if there is any change we see in the laws, perhaps it may come with conservatorship abuse. When I was doing the research to come on your show, Ashley, I kept looking at it all pertains to elder abuse because typically it is elderly adults who are in these types of relationships, folks who are impaired, elderly, and have lost their faculties, developmentally disabled individuals. This is rare for someone Britney's age. And I know you know this, Ashley, from all of your studies with criminal law. I think of it like competency in criminal law, how it can change day to day, week to week, month to month. And here, why are things so static from 2008? Clearly, she's changed, and clearly everything needs to be reevaluated at this juncture to see if this is still the right fit.
Couple things, if you weren't watching last night, folks, there was an appendix to the ACLU amicus brief, and it's like 76 pages, so you have to really love reading that stuff, which I do. And I found this little ditty in the appendix. Here, pop me up on camera so I can show people what I found. It is exactly what it looks like. These are text messages. Yes, the big black parts are the redacted parts that were in the amicus brief, but I do want to read some of it. It says Jane Doe, but from the context, we know that this is a conversation conversation between Jody Montgomery, presumably, and Brittany. And Jody Montgomery, presumably, says, in order for me to stay and help support you, I must be sure to stay in my lane. Getting you a new attorney by filing with the court is your best legal approach. Your dad has excellent attorneys, and you should too. Brittany answers, I know, but I want redacted, and I get a new lawyer. I can do both. And then Jody Montgomery likely saying, your new lawyer will do that. Redacted, redacted. Brittany says, okay. Then more from presumably Jody, redacted, 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 big redacted. And then Brittany, look at the language she uses and the way she texts. I need you to stay on as my co-conservator of person. I'm asking you for your assistance in getting a new attorney. Redacted. Brittany says, thank you for your help. It continues, redacted. But Jody Montgomery says, you must have your own representation, and we will clear the way in court, redacted, redacted. Brittany says something redacted, but then carries on to say, it is not cool, though. You're not giving me names, Jody. Jody is redacted. Brittany says, I don't have representation, though. And Jody says, Sam is still your attorney until the court releases him, which likely either happened today or is in the process of happening, because now we have one Matthew Rosengart, who will be her attorney. Sam was court appointed. He's been there for a long time. He asked to get off. Glenda Hatchett, these are the things that the judge in this case has to read through, all 76 pages, probably yesterday before today's hearing. I keep coming back to people like Amy Winehouse, whose dad tried everything to save her, and he couldn't. He couldn't get a handle on her, and she's dead, and she's one of many. Too many people have jumped on the Britney Spears bandwagon before they know all the facts. Does that worry you?
It does, because, as a judge, I have been criticized in the press and publicly. People say, well, why did she do it? But they did not see what I saw. And we have to rely on the fact, as you've said many times, Ashley, that there's just so much that we don't know in this case. But this is what I do know. And this is the question, and this is the part that really concerns me, is that if she is so unable to care for herself, she is so incompetent to do that, why is she on world tours and it's almost like she's being exploited. If she cannot make simple decisions for herself, but yet she's performing before tens of thousands of people over and over and over, seems terribly, it just seems so inconsistent to me.
Yeah,
so
maybe, I just think maybe she can do this with a very strong guided hand, much like when she was 16 or 17, but needed those adults around her to protect her. I got to cut it there, guys, but this is not over. I hope all three of you will come back. This has just been absolutely delightful. Diane Diamond, Julie Grant, and Judge Glenda Hatchett. Thank you. Thank you, all three.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to clear the air on weed. The biggest push maybe ever right now is happening to get the feds to stop worrying and maybe instead start loving the bong. Welcome back. The leader of the Senate today rolled out a measure that would wipe the federal law against marijuana use off the books. It would do something else, too. It would wipe thousands of marijuana convictions off the books as well. And if it succeeds, it'll put the feds in sync with 18 states across our union that have fully legalized weed so far, or 37 states across our union if you count the ones that allow just medical use. Chuck Schumer says it is a matter of simple justice and that it is long overdue.
We have all seen the agony of a young person arrested with a small amount of marijuana in his or her pocket. And because of the historical over-criminalization of marijuana, they have a very severe criminal record they have to live with their whole lives. Tougher to get a job, tougher to get credit, tougher to live a normal life. The waste of human resources because of the historic over-criminalization has been one of the great historical wrongs for the last decades.
We do have a lot of people in prison for dope. NewsNation DC correspondent Joe Khalil joins me now from Capitol Hill. So, Joe, this is not a new issue. Why all of a sudden are we hearing about this?
Well, you know, it seems like one of these things actually that's been a long time coming, and that's definitely what you heard from Leader Schumer there and Senators Cory Booker and Ron Wyden, who, you know, have been pushing this. Marijuana is a Schedule I drug, so you consider heroin a Schedule I drug. Others that clearly can kill you. Marijuana, clearly not the case. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. And as you mentioned, the bill they put forward now would decriminalize it. It would get it off of that Schedule I on a federal level. And they pointed to some of the same statistics that you did, that there are 37 states around the country that have legalized medicinal marijuana and 17 plus D.C. here that have legalized recreational use. So those are important things. Maybe the even more important step, according to Cory Booker, is that it does expunge people's records. If you have a nonviolent marijuana crime that you've committed, and if you're actually in jail or in prison right now for a nonviolent marijuana crime, it does also create an appeals process where you can have your sentence reduced. So it does a lot of things. It also creates a tax system to start taxing it on a federal level. And some of the proceeds, Ashley, of the tax revenue would go to communities that have been extremely, hit hard by the quote-unquote war on drugs. Clearly, there's data about communities of color all across the nation that have seen much harsher sentences for marijuana crimes than others.
It's just a super fascinating topic that doesn't go away. It'll be interesting to see if it goes anywhere. Joe Khalil, thank you. Appreciate that from the Hill. I want to bring in now Scott Chipman. He's the vice president of the group called Americans Against Legalizing Marijuana. Mr. Chipman, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You know, I was doing a little Gallup reading, which I like to do on a, what are we, Wednesday night? I'm not even sure anymore. And I found something from 2-3 years ago, which I was surprised at. It may be outdated by now, but it said that public support across the U.S. for marijuana legalization has surged to 66%. And then what was particularly noteworthy about that was that there's a newfound majority that supports legalizing it among Republicans and people 55 and older. They've typically been the groups that have said, no, that stuff's bad for you, it's immoral, and it leads to the gateway drugs, etc. So if so many Americans are coming on board, what's wrong with legalizing marijuana?
Well, that's several volumes, but the information that we just heard from Chuck Schumer is not accurate. We checked in before Prop 64 was passed in California. Every jail and prison in California, we could not find one person in jail or prison for simple possession of marijuana. When they do talk about people who are in jail for a marijuana possession, it's typically people who have had pounds, dozens of pounds, hundreds of pounds. They're traffickers, and they often use the marijuana charge as basically a plea bargain for some much more serious crime. So virtually everybody in jail would still be in jail for the marijuana crimes that they've committed in California because they're selling as traffickers or they're trafficking across state lines. So there are very, very few people in jail for marijuana.
I do have to push back on you there, Mr. Chipman, only in that I follow a lot of this stuff. I've been doing crime and justice for 20 years, and I know that loads of people are behind bars for a third strike or maybe a parole violation, and it's a joint or two. So we're spending a lot of money as Americans locking these guys up, especially if they're nonviolent. A lot more people are saying, for heaven's sake, we used to have bootleggers and, people who drank liquor in speakeasies behind bars too. Aren't we there? Aren't we going that direction? Aren't we getting closer to 1933?
Let's talk about why we shouldn't do this, because marijuana is a very dangerous drug. People like Chuck Schumer and most adults think of marijuana as the Cheech and Chong era, when marijuana was 1% to 3%. Marijuana is a hard drug now. You can't virtually find any marijuana that's under 15%, and anything around 12 to 15% in Europe is considered a hard drug. The marijuana of today is 30 to 99%. Botanical marijuana is 20 to 30%. Then you get into the chemistry, the dabs, the hash oils, the edibles, and we're talking about 99% THC. And we have a health drug abuse crisis in this country, and it's being fueled in part by marijuana. You talk to anybody who is addicted to very, very hard drugs, crack, cocaine, amphetamines, virtually all of them have started with marijuana. And so we have to think about what kind of country we want to live in. Do we want to live in a country where being impaired, being out of your normal state of mind is a normal course?
I think that's fair. I think you make a fair point. Back when I was a teenager, marijuana was somewhere around 2% THC, and today it's upwards of 90. So yeah, that is really worrisome for parents out there right now. You should know that. It is pure and it can be extraordinarily potent. But the other thing I have to say is that that's the same thing that alcohol could be as well. And yet there are very strict regulations on the kinds of percentages of alcohol that can be sold in alcohol stores, so or liquor stores.
But we have very
so
strict
can't we
regulations.
chew gum and walk at the same time? Can't we regulate the potency of THC like we did liquor?
We've actually proven that we can't. In California, because I live in California, I'll take it as an example, but you could use the same examples in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and elsewhere. In California, the black market is 3 times bigger now than it was before legalization. Just 3 days ago, the LA Sheriff's Department gathered up $1.2 billion worth of marijuana in one regional grow site northeast of Los Angeles. The marijuana market in California is much larger than the legal market. Virtually no one who can get away with it is going into the legal market. And many of the people who are in the legal, which I would say the permitted market, are running 2 sets of books, and they run 2 businesses, one out the back door.
I got to say, this is a good conversation, and I think we need to have more of it. Scott Chipman, will you come back and join me again? This isn't over, right? It's only just starting.
We need to talk much more about the harms. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll have you back for sure. Scott Chipman, thank you for that. Coming up after the break, they can weigh 200 pounds and they can be 20 feet long. They eat other animals for sport, including alligators. So naturally, unarmed humans are flocking to Florida right now, this week, to kill them. The annual South Florida Python Hunt when we come back. And if you love animals, I'm about to explain why you will really love the fact this hunt is happening. Welcome back. You may take issue with this, but there are places in the world where Burmese pythons belong. They may not be welcome, but at least they're native. And Florida is not among those places. Yet Florida, especially South Florida, is overrun with pythons nowadays and really does not want to be. It is legal in Florida year-round to kill a python. But this week, there's a prize for it. $10,000, in fact, for the most pythons, longest pythons, heaviest pythons, shall we say, neutralized without the use of firearms. Joining me now with his take on all of this exotic animal wildlife stuff, that's how I term it because I'm not an expert in it, is veterinarian Dr. Evan Anton. Dr. Anton, thanks so much for being on the show. People who love animals would be horrified to hear that there is a python hunt and $10,000 prize to kill these beautiful animals if you love snakes. Tell me why people should be happy that this is happening.
Well, I have to relate to these people. I'm also a huge reptile fan and a huge snake fan, and I do like Burmese pythons as well. Unfortunately, their presence in southern Florida and the Everglades area is very destructive to our wildlife. You know, and these animals are not equipped. They haven't evolved to have the adaptations to protect themselves against a predator like this, and they're not used to having snakes that grow up to 20+ feet in their habitat. And so they're just kind of sitting ducks, and you know, it's really affecting and decimating quite a bit of the wildlife in that area, unfortunately.
So they're Burmese pythons, which makes me think they're from Burma, but I'm never certain until I'm certain. I just know one thing, and they don't come from Florida. So are these literally people who are really stupid buying these as pets and then being stupid again and throwing them out into the, you know, environment?
Yeah, I think exotic pet ownership does play into this and ignorance in that trade. Unfortunately, you know, there are hurricanes and you know, gnarly weather patterns that go through that area, and breeding facilities and pet shops and things like that can get wiped out, where all their animals essentially are released, if you will. And so, yeah, a combination of factors, I think, gets these snakes out in the wild. And they're not the only ones. There's a lot of other invasive, problematic species that can be found, in that part of Florida and really all over the world. But in Florida, we have tegus, we have other monitor lizards, we've got other snake species, but the Burmese python is kind of the poster child of this non-native invasive species problem we have in that area.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I saw this, that the Hurricane Andrew back in August of '92 really set things in motion and established the reproducing population in the Everglades right after that Cat 5 storm. I want to show a clip from History Channel's Swamp People. I love the title. But they're out there showing what it's like to actually hunt and catch pythons, and it is not for the faint of heart. Take a look.
Watch him, Bill. Watch him.
Bill's goal is to capture at least 20 of the invasive beasts in a 24-hour window.
Dude, see, this hot weather's got him fired up.
The strike of a Burmese python could take about 70 milliseconds, 3 times faster than the blink of an eye. It makes it crucial to keep away from its head.
Man, I'm scared. I got the deal. Let's drag him out. We're got the stretcher. Yeah. Let him wrap around the tree and you might be able to get his head. You want me to grab his head? Grab his tail. I got his tail. Look, he's coming for me over there. Come on, Bill. Don't be scared.
Oh, man. Those guys know what they're doing, but I feel bad for the cameraman because I don't know that he has the same skills that they do, and yet he's right there with them. Why is it, Dr. Anton, that there are so many of these pythons? I mean, are they breeding at an insane rate, or are their babies not consumed by other animals? Like, what is it that's proliferated the numbers so insanely?
I think the biggest thing is that their clutch size is pretty substantial. So a female can lay anywhere from like 15 or 20 up to 60 or 80 eggs. And so if a lot of those are viable, obviously the population can expand at a fairly exponential rate.
How often would she lay that many eggs?
It's tough to say because she's in a habitat where she's not native, and so with a slightly different photo period and other different breeding factors and whatnot, it's probably not quite the same as what it would be in the wild, but I would imagine that a female could have a clutch maybe once a year, maybe more in that area.
Okay, so I saw some statistics from 2012, and we are clearly, a decade from 2012, and this was depressing, that wildlife in the Everglades had dropped at these rates. Raccoons and possums had dropped by 99%, bobcats by 87%, and this was just since 1997. And then marsh rabbits, cottontail rabbits, and foxes just disappeared altogether. I would imagine that should alarm people who love animals and people who conserve animals and fish and game operators and the like. This should be an epidemic and a crisis as opposed to, just a hunt.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with invasive species is it's a bummer for everybody. Nobody wins. You have to have sympathy for the native wildlife. It's not fair to them. They're living somewhere where there shouldn't be predators like this, or animals, whether they're hunting them or outcompeting them or whatever it is. That's not okay. But then, of course, with these snakes, it's not their fault. People release them there or they escape from storms and whatnot. And so it's a bummer for them too. And so I don't look at this as like a fun thing. Let's go kill a bunch of snakes. It's just something, unfortunately, that the state deems as being, something that needs to be done to help, conserve their native wildlife, which I think I would agree that needs to be a priority.
So this may be slightly outdated, but since 2000, more than 13,000 Burmese pythons have been removed by the state of Florida. Doctor, when we come back after the break, I want to ask you about this one little rule in the python hunt that's going on in Florida right now, and it is that they have to be killed humanely without a gun. I cannot imagine what would be a humane way, but maybe, sir, you can tell me. We're back in just a moment. I don't know about you, but I like swamp people. I like them a lot because they're tough, they're fearless, and they catch Burmese python. And if you have ever tried to do that, well, you probably haven't because it looks like this.
The sun going down too. It's going fast.
Dude, another one. Come on.
I'm coming.
He's right here. Here, take this from me. Take it. Freak, Bruce. Brucey.
Watch out. Get out of my way, man.
Dude, I'm trying.
Whoa! Golly.
Be careful, Bruce.
Be careful. You should have said that before you struck at me.
I'll distract him. Come on. Stretch him out. Stretch him out. I'm not trying to get bit. Oh, yeah. Oh! Dude, he came after you. He tried to juke us. Come on.
Strike.
He's gonna strike.
I ain't got time for this mess.
You're money today. You're money today.
That is officially History Channel's Swamp People. So Dr. Evan Anton is still with me as a wild animal veterinarian. The rules of the hunt for the python dictate that you cannot use a gun and you have to kill them humanely. Can you please tell me how on earth you kill something like that humanely?
Well, using a gun can be humane, but that means you have the snake position where you can put that bullet in its brain directly. So shooting at these snakes in their body shots and trying to get their chest and their heart, it's just not a humane way of killing, an animal like a snake and really a lot of different reptiles. And so another option, an option these guys have is using captive bolt. And so that basically is a spring-loaded metal trajectory that just shoots right into the head. So again, they have to position the snake and get it right and then aim their captive bolt appropriately, and they're putting it basically right in the middle of the head, right in that brain. And you have to destroy the brain, because the key to this being humane is we don't want these snakes to suffer. We're not doing this to go on a killing spree and just have fun torturing and killing snakes. This is done, and we want it to be done humanely so they're not suffering and we're ending consciousness. In order to do that, we have to destroy the brain immediately. And even when they bleed out, it's not the same as like with mammals where they lose consciousness. Reptiles, they can operate on very low oxygen content in their bloodstream, and that includes their brain. So you can decapitate them, and that alone, they're still consciously feeling pain and discomfort and stress and all those horrible things. So the brain has to be destroyed. Decapitation is another method, but that's immediately followed by destroying the brain on the inside of the head. And that you can do with a captive bolt, or you can pith it and just manually destroy the brain. But we want to destroy the brain so they're not suffering in this experience.
Yeah. So I have a weird question, and some people might recoil. I only have a minute left, but I got to ask it. Can you eat pythons? Because if it becomes sort of part of the diet, wouldn't that sort of solve a lot of this problem if humans decided, hey, python's pretty good?
I mean, I would imagine some people do. I don't know of any, big reason why people don't eat pythons. I mean, people eat rattlesnakes and all kinds of other snakes and reptiles and whatnot. I mean, especially in other parts of the world, you see snake consumption in the tropics, and I've seen it in different parts of the world for sure. So, yeah, I think that's a way for them not to go to waste too, if they can be, recycled or used in some way, especially since they're euthanized by means of not using drugs, so they're not contaminated in that way.
Wow, I'm seeing the pictures on the screen of you right now in your practice with one of the giant, I don't know why you're never scared of getting squeezed by them, but that's a whole other show for another day. Dr. Evan Anton, it's been really nice to talk to you. I really appreciate it. They don't? Oh, well, that's
my pleasure.
That makes
Thank you
me
for having me on.
better.
No. I mean, even a big snake like that, and I'm I'm not a small guy. They're not going to look at me. And those ones you see in the hospital, these are captive pets. They're very comfortable around people. They're well fed. They're not trying to get a meal out of me or anything. They're mellow.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Anton.